Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is now called to order. I'm Carleen McDonough, the Chair of the Board of Directors of Image Plus Consultants Limited, and I'll be chairing this, our 2023 Annual General Meeting and the first AGM of the company since listing on the junior market of the stock exchange. The meeting is being held in a hybrid format, and on behalf of the board, it gives me great pleasure to welcome all our shareholders here in person and those joining us virtually this morning. We are indeed excited about having our first annual general meeting as a listed company. We could not have achieved this milestone without your participation and the trust that you have placed in us. We thank you. A hearty welcome also to our auditors, HLB Mayor Russell, KPMG, our registrars, members of the press, and all other guests, and of course, all our team members present. We are honored that you have all taken the time to support us. Now, please join us in prayer as we ask the Lord's blessings on our deliberations this morning. Our team member and director, Dr. Stephen Lewis, will offer prayers on our behalf. Stephen.
Good morning, everyone. Can we all stand as we offer a word of prayer, please? Thank you. Okay. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the gift of another day. We thank you for bringing us all here safely to this point. We thank you for strength, for health, for continued provision and protection of our lives and the lives of our families. Lord, we just want to acknowledge you as sovereign over our lives and the lives of our families, in our businesses, over our people, over our leaders, and in our nation. As we start this AGM this morning, Lord, we just humbly invite your presence, both physically and online. We ask that you align our minds, our hearts, our spirits to yours. We ask that you give us wisdom, discernment, knowledge, patience, and focus. We ask for smooth running of the AGM. We ask that there will be no interruptions or any technical issues at all. We just pray your blessings over everything as we go along. So, Father, as we turn this time over to you, we just give you thanks and we pray that everything that we do and say here today will bring you glory. And these things we pray expectantly in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Stephen. Ladies and gentlemen, I now take pleasure in introducing our Corporate Secretary and Director, Dr. Marion Allison Vaughan, who will confirm that there is a quorum for this morning's AGM and read the notice convening the meeting.
Morning. Yes, Chair, we do have a quorum present. Morning, everyone. Notice of Annual General Meeting. Notice is hereby given that the Annual General Meeting of the company will be held at the Terra Hotel, Venetian Room, 17 Waterloo Road, Kingston 10, Jamaica, on Friday, July 28, 2023 at 10 a.m. The following items of business will be considered. 1. To receive the reports of the directors and auditors and the audited accounts for the 12 months ended February 28, 2023. 2. To ratify interim dividend payments and declare them final. 3. To reappoint directors retiring by rotation pursuant to Article 105. 4. Election of other retiring directors pursuant to Article 106. 5. To appoint auditors and authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors. And 6. To approve directors' remuneration. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. I have received an apology for absence from Director Dr. Lilith Ann Bridgewater, who, due to unavoidable circumstances, is unable to join us this morning. Dr. Bridgewater has asked me to extend best wishes to all our shareholders and stakeholders. I now take this opportunity to introduce you to the other members of the board who are here with us in person. From my left, seated beside Dr. Allison, you've already met Dr. Stephen Lewis. Beside him is Miss Carolyn DaCosta. Then we have Dr. Jacqueline Leckie, Mr. Carl Townsend, and Mrs. Keisha Anderson. Joining us virtually are Dr. Gordon Bradshaw and Dr. Leon Vaughn. I'm now going to ask Director DaCosta to take us through the protocols to be observed throughout the meeting.
Good morning, everyone. As we proceed, we ask that you bear in mind that this meeting is being recorded and shared live. We have muted online participants' microphones to reduce noise disruptions. For the question and answer section, questions will be taken physically and electronically periodically during this meeting, as it is being held in an hybrid format. We will take 2 questions from each shareholder to give everyone the opportunity to voice their questions or concerns. We will take questions online and then take questions in the room afterwards. For shareholders who may have additional questions, you may email them to the email address shareholder@apex-radiology.com. Attendees who are participating electronically may indicate that he or she would like to speak by using your raise hand feature on the itinerary platform or by sending an electronic message on said platform via the question and answer section. An attendee who would like to speak should wait to be acknowledged. Thereafter, the attendee is required to unmute and turn on his or her camera at the time he or she is addressing the meeting. If during the meeting any attendee has an electronic difficulty which affects the attendee ability to participate in the meeting, identify other attendees, or to be identified by other attendees, you may send an email to apex-radiology.com to communicate your issue. The issue will then be reported to the chairman or the company secretary. The notice calling this annual general meeting was posted on the JSE website on June 23rd, 2023, and a physical letter along with the notice was mailed to all shareholders. In the notice, shareholders were advised that voting by shareholders at this AGM will be facilitated electronically and in person by a raise of hand. The resolutions to be voted on in this meeting are ordinary resolutions requiring a simple majority vote to be passed. Results of all votes cast by shareholders present or represented by proxy will be tallied and shared in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn. I now invite Mr. Sixter Coy, partner from HLB Mayer Russell, to read the auditor's report. For easy reference, the report can be found on page 59 of the annual report.
Thank you. Good morning, shareholders. As indicated before, the auditor's report is located at page 59 independent auditor's report to the members of Image Plus Consultants Limited, report on the audit of the financial statements. Oral opinion. We have audited the financial statements of Image Plus Consultants Limited, the company, which comprise a statement of financial position as at February 28, 2023, statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, statement of changes in equity, and statement of cash flows for the year then ended, and notes to the financial statements, including a summary of significant accounting policies. In our opinion, the financial statements give a true and fair view of the financial position of the company as at February 28, 2023, and of its financial performance and cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with international financial reporting standards and the requirement of the Jamaican Companies Act. Basis for opinion. We conducted our audit in accordance with international standards on auditing. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the financial statements section of our report. We are independent of the company in accordance with International Ethics Standards Board of Accountants Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, the IESBA Code, and we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with the IESBA Code. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Responsibilities of management and those charged with governance of the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation of the financial statements that give a true and fair view in accordance with IFRS and the Jamaican Companies Act, and for such internal control as management determines is necessary to enable the preparation of financial statements that are free from material misstatements, whether due to fraud or error. In preparing the financial statement, management is responsible for assessing the company's ability to continue as a going concern, disclose as applicable matters related to going concern and using the going concern basis of accounting, unless management either intends to liquidate the company or to cease operations, or has no realistic alternative but to do so. The board of directors is responsible for overseeing the company's financial reporting process. The auditor's responsibility for the financial statements. Our objectives are to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error, and to issue the auditor's report that include our opinion. Reasonable assurance is high level of assurance, but is not a guarantee that the audit conducted in accordance with ISAs will always detect a material misstatement when it exists. Misstatements can arise from fraud or error and are considered material if individually or in aggregate they could reasonably be expected to influence the economic decisions of users taken on the basis of these financial statements. As part of an audit in accordance with ISAs, we exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism. Through the audit, we also identify and assess the risk of material misstatement to the financial statements, whether due to fraud or error, design and perform audit procedures responsive to those risks, and obtain the audit evidence that is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. The risk of not detecting a material misstatement resulting from fraud is higher than one resulting from error, as fraud may involve collusion, forgery, intentional omissions, misrepresentations, or the override of internal controls. Obtain an understanding of internal control relevant to the audit in order to design audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances, but not for the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the company's internal control. Evaluate the appropriateness of the accounting policies and the reasonableness of accounting estimates and the related disclosures made by management. Conclude on the appropriateness of the management use of the going concern basis of accounting, and based on the audit evidence obtained, whether a material uncertainty exists related to events or conditions that may cast significant doubt on the company's ability to continue as a going concern. If we conclude that a material uncertainty exists, we are required to draw attention to in the auditor's report to the related disclosures in the financial statements, or if such disclosures are inadequate, to modify our opinion. Our conclusions are based on the audit evidence obtained up to the date of the auditor's report, However, future events or conditions may cause the company to cease to continue as a going concern. Evaluate the overall presentation, structure, and content of financial statements, including the disclosures and whether the financial statements represent the underlying transactions and events in a manner that presents a true and fair view. We communicate with the board of directors regarding, among other matters, the planned scope and timing of the audit and significant audit findings, including any significant deficiencies in internal control that we identified during our audit. Report on additional matters as required by the Jamaican Companies Act. We have obtained all the information and explanations to the best of our knowledge and belief were necessary for the purposes of our audit. In our opinion, proper accounting records have been maintained so far as appears from our examination of those records, and the financial statements which are in agreement therewith give the information required by the Jamaican Companies Act in the manner so required. Partner responsible for the audit is Sixto Coy. Signed, HLB Russell, Kingston, Jamaica, April 29th, 2023. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coy. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to hand over to our Executive Director and CEO, Mrs. Keisha Anderson, who will highlight the company's progress and achievements over the past year and also outline our strategies going forward. Keisha.
Good morning. Oh boy. Good morning, everyone. Great. So nice to see so many of you who took time out of your busy day to be here with us this morning. Can you fix this up at the phone? So that I don't keep fidgeting with it. Thank you. All right. So if in 2019 somebody asked me if I'd be here today, I'd tell them no, right? Because in 2023, I thought I would be living on the beach permanently, but that was not to be. Because in 2020, I discovered a gem in the form of Image Plus Consultants Limited. So I'm happy on their behalf to share their story, our results, and insight into our future. I wonder if you know as shareholders that this is the 103rd company to list on the stock exchange. Did you know that? No. Did you know it's the 48th company to list on the junior market? No. Well, now you do. And it's also the first company, everybody knows this, the first company that listed for this calendar year, right? Yes, everybody remember that, January 20th. So as I start, I'd like to thank the team for their care, excellence, and commitment to our patients, our directors for the ongoing guidance to me, and our shareholders for the accountability, the trust, and the partnership you have placed with us by putting your hard-earned money into our company. So let me begin. Okay, it's not moving yet. Great. So I thought it was important to highlight and remind us that even though we're going to be talking about money and performance and figures, people really are at the core of what we do. And when we decided to do an annual report and ask some of our patients and our doctors if they would care to say something, I was heartened at what they actually wrote. And I thought it's important to start there and put first things first. So Dr. Osmond Tomlinson said, Apex Radiology is a shining example of a Jamaican company that has kept pace with the changing needs of the industry while maintaining a steadfast commitment to patient care. I would enthusiastically recommend Apex Radiology to anyone seeking high-quality diagnostic imaging services in Jamaica. Patients can trust Apex Radiology for top-quality imaging service, and investors can be confident in the company's strong business model and commitment to excellence. Now, shareholders, those are words that we cannot buy, and they're words that mean that we have something to live up to and to deliver on that promise, right? Would you agree with me? All right. Thank you. All right. This clicker not working for me at all. So Affinity, just help me by clicking when I ask here. Thank you. All right, so this is a picture from the listing ceremony, and I just chose to include it because we have not only a Jamaican company, but a company that was founded by two strong Jamaican women. And was it also Mr. Cunningham, Dr. Ma? And Dr. Gordon Bradshaw? Right. And these two represented that. And when they started, they were thinking of creating something and making a difference in the medical field. Little did they know that they would also provide livelihood and a job for so many, and now a return for our shareholders in the future. Could you move along the deck for me now, please? Milestones. So between November and the end of the financial year 2023, a couple of things happened. The very first thing that we achieved was moving into a new location in Ocho Rios at White River North Commercial Complex. And why it is so paramount and a milestone for us is that this new location is going to allow us the capacity to serve so many more Jamaicans. And it also allows us to serve them in comfort and dignity. In this location, we actually are able to facilitate several stretchers in an ambulance kind of bay on the inside, and also have our private patients who walking not have to be intermingling. And you can imagine when you're coming to a medical facility on a stretcher, you may not be 100% dressed, you have on your hospital clothes, you still would want some amount of privacy and dignity. So we thought it was important it does that. The other thing that this location affords us is it affords us to offer on-call services, which we do offer and makes a big difference to tourists that are in the area and also to the hospitals, because we know our hospital situation in Jamaica that sometimes ambulances are hard to come by in the day, right? And so by having on-call services, the hospital patients can get diagnosed faster because the doctors will get the results of images to actually know how to treat them faster. So we're very happy that we're in that new location, which now is a platform from which we can grow. Also, we decided to go public. And so we had the offering of our shares starting in December, and we were able to close the offer early and have a successful listing in January. And then at the end of February, we achieved a significant milestone. Who can remind me what that is? $1 billion in revenue. That's not a little thing, you know. I think that deserves some kind of acknowledgement. $1 billion in revenue. All right. Some of the highlights from our performance for last year, which are also in the annual report, and you would have heard us present in our earnings call that we did with Learn, Grow, and Invest in May of this year. So we did revenue of 1.093 billion, as I said earlier, profit before tax of 252 million. Our shareholder equity grew to 938 million. We delivered earnings per share of 23 cents. Our assets grew to 1.16 billion, and our return on assets 29.5%, coming from 15.4% in 2018. And our scan count, meaning the amount of scans we did across different modalities, and a modality like CT scans, a modality ultrasounds, X-rays, we did 54,840 scans. And I'll talk a little bit more about the revenue. So you see our revenue growth. If we look at 2019 up to 2023, we're coming from in the region of 350 million all the way to the 1.09 billion. If we look at our profit before tax, we see that it stands at 252.9 million, coming from 113 million in the prior year. So that's growth of, I didn't actually calculate it, but it's significant growth, as we can see. And we achieved this because we managed to grow our revenues faster than our expenses. So our revenues grew at 40.7%, whereas our expenses grew at 24.8%. Now, how do we grow revenues? The business model is quite simple. We grow revenues when we do patient scans. And so what you would watch as an investor is you would watch our scan numbers. And what you will see on this pictorial slide is that in 2019, In 2019, we did 37,280 scans, 2020, 40,980, 21, 39,120, and leading up to 2023 with the 54,840. So if you look 2023 over 2022, we grew by 18.3% or over 8,460 scans, right? So I think that is, it helps to explain where the revenue growth came from. And as you watch as shareholders, you're going to want to see that we're having our machines functioning and our ability to do scans, how quickly we turn over our rooms, and how much we enjoy the benefit of referrals from the referring physicians, and also from patients word of mouth, because people know that when you get a referral form now, everybody doesn't necessarily go to the company the referral form is from, right? You depend on your family members or somebody you know to actually recommend somewhere to go. So we do see people choosing us and growing by word of mouth because a patient tells another patient about their positive experience with us. All right, moving on, just to give you a quick snapshot of our P&L. And I think the only thing on this that you would not have seen on the highlight slide before is that our profit after tax grew to 236.4 million, which is growth of 150.7% or 142.1 million year over year. As it relates to our balance sheet year over year, we grew by 710.6 million in assets. I think we had disclosed in the report that we had purchased a new fluoroscopy machine, and then we had leasehold improvements, and of course there was growth in our receivables, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the receivables when I talk about the results for the first quarter of this financial year. Our liabilities grew by 39.4 million, and our share capital and retained earnings grew by 671.2 million to 938 million. As it relates to the other statement of our financial performance, our cash flow, I think what I would want to highlight is in the very first line that says the net cash used in operating activities, because this is evidence that the company generates positive operating cash flow. And I think you want to know that because that's an important marker for you as a shareholder to see. So outside of the numbers, we also did other things. You know, as a team, we participate in the Sigma Run, and I tell people all the time that your quality of service really depends on how your employees feel. If they feel good about the place that they are, and it's a holistic feel good, not just feel good about coming in, but you're able to do things together as a team and also support a worthy cause, which we do when we participate in the Sigma Run. We also look to the future of the industry, and we support the Radiographer Association at the university through training, meaning that we take interns every year, and through mentorship of them. And we also started sponsoring them. They have events to go to, and they want their shirts to wear to feel proud of their upcoming profession, and we've started to sponsor the production of those shirts. I think I would also want to say on this note that prior to the IPO, we had strengthening of our governance because we increased our board, and you will see the expertise that we brought on board, persons who have strong knowledge of governance. We brought on board persons who have strong knowledge of financial accounting and general business strategy to augment our existing directors and to provide guidance to our management team. So what's happening now? So that's the end of 2023, but we are now more than the first quarter would have ended in May. We're now in July. And so you may or may not have heard about our first quarter results. So I thought I would take a little time just to give you a snapshot of what those were. So our revenues were up to 300.2 million for the quarter. Before they were at 281 million. Our net profit, a little mixed fortune here. It was down last quarter, the first quarter of financial year 2023. It was at 71.7, and it was down to 64.1. And I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And our earnings per share was at 5 cents. All right, so let me say something about our profit. So our revenue went up because we did well in terms of our case count, but our profit went down, and you may wonder why. Our profit was impacted by a reduction in CT scans because our CT scanner was down at our 129 Pro location. That's one of the risks of our industry, and how you mitigate that risk, is that you ensure that your uptime is maximized by getting the machine back to working order in the shortest possible time. So if it is to get diagnosed, if it is to get parts, then we work on getting it up to the shortest possible time. Unfortunately, this CT unit had a myriad of issues, one after the other. And so it would come up for a few days and then go back down. So what the board is at the point of doing now, which is similar to something we had to do in 2020, was to consider whether we stop throwing good money after bad, and instead of repairing that unit, we then purchase a new CT unit. And so that's what the board is contemplating now after getting opinions from one set of, let me call them our partners. We're now looking at expanding the partner pool and getting advice from another set about what to do with the machine. And I don't think anybody has as much anxiety, I guess is the word I would use, over it than me. And to say that we were actually down for such a long period is not something I'm happy about. So we're definitely doing it, and the board is going to hold me accountable to make sure it happens, right? Yes, right. We have a WhatsApp, so they want to know what's going on with the machine today, Keisha, so the pressure is on, right? Right, where's Anthony? Anthony's our biomed and IT tech. Anthony, the pressure is on Anthony too. Our admin expenses grew in this quarter by 28%, which was a little more than, if you remember, last year it grew by 24%. This year in the quarter it grew by 28%. There were some things in that were one-off costs. So we did an IT consultancy, and we also did some things for the Ocherius branch relocation advertising. We had increased rental and maintenance for Ocherius, which will be ongoing, so that's not one-off. And we had an increase in our staff costs. We shored up in terms of number of team members as we look to expand the modalities. I'll soon explain that. And we also gave our team members an inflationary salary adjustment at the start of this new financial year. We also had costs as associated with being a listed entity. So we had to, for shareholders who don't take direct transfers, we had to print dividend checks. We had over, I think, 1,000 or 2,000. Somebody cue me. I can't remember the exact number of dividend checks that we actually had to do. So we're now working assiduously to have those shareholders convert to direct deposits, because that just makes the whole process much easier. So what else we need to focus on now then is to grow our revenue faster than the expense growth, right? Because that's how you're going to make more profit. On our balance sheet, I said I was going to talk about our receivables, and that's where I want to spend a little time focusing on now. So I know that in the earnings call on Monday, the question came up about the concern about receivables. So we'll see here that as at the end of May last year, first quarter, our receivables stood at 197.5 million. And at the end of May this year, it stood at 487.5 million. To some extent, it's a matter of timing, because this figure is now significantly down because we received some outstanding payments from one large payer. Now, receivables, how I look on it is that you want to ensure that your receivables don't impact your cash flow management. And you want to ensure that whoever owes you can pay you. In this instance with a large payer, we're comfortable as management and the board that we will be paid, as evidenced by this figure being almost cut in half, now less than 2 months later. We also want to ensure that whatever we're doing is not impacted by the inability to collect this amount faster. To this point, as the CEO, I have tried to focus on ensuring that our other cash that comes in from our other payers and from our patients who pay us in cash is able to sustain our business. And so when we get this monies from this large payer, it's actually allowing us to either pay dividends or to reinvest in the business. And so far, so good, but we're not taking our eyes off of it, and we're very prudent to ensure that we have deliberate commitment letters from this payer, and so far they've delivered per their promise. I don't think there's anything much I wanted to say on that other cash flow page, but I'll go on now just to say that our responsibility continues as a good corporate citizen. And this year we participated in Relay for Life. We also, our marketing team, supported by the Otrius team, went to St. Mary Agri Expo. It might sound strange at Agri Expo, but because we moved the Otrius location so close to the border of St. Mary, and this was an opportunity on Easter Monday to interact with the community there and to let them know that we were there this year, we decided to participate. We also did Labor Day donations. We didn't actually do our time and effort, but we bought supplies for Anota Bay, St. Anne's Bay, and Port Antonio hospitals, because I think as Jamaicans, anything we can do to help our public healthcare system is very important. We also participated in a performance review exercise for the nurses by way of giving a donation towards their celebratory efforts, because you must celebrate good work when good work is done, right? Okay. That didn't sound so overwhelming, like you agree with me. All right, and we continue now as a board because we have a mentor who is a very serious lady. So we have to ensure that we're always on top of our game. Our corporate governance policy was signed off on the 31st of May by the Remuneration Committee, and then the wider board ratified it on the 28th of June. It's now uploaded. You can see it on the Stock Exchange website, also on our website. In addition, we did, since the start of this year in the first quarter, our Code of Conduct and Ethics for Directors and our Board of Directors handbook, to ensure that, because we don't have all directors coming from being directors prior, we want to ensure that everybody is trained as we maintain our commitment to good governance on your behalf. We had 2 training sessions there for board members internally, and there were training sessions hosted by the Stock Exchange that we participated in. All right, so the year has a few more months to go from this point 7. Let me just tell you a little bit about what's happening and what we're doing. If the clicker would cooperate with me. I'm going ahead of the clicker. Great. All right, so in our prospectus, we told you, our shareholders and our potential shareholders at that time, some things that we were doing. And because people are at the core of what we do, and we're also focused on how we support healthcare in Jamaica, we decided that we were going to introduce mammography. And what I wanted to highlight here about the real situation in Jamaica is that 1 in 21 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. And 60% of the women diagnosed with cancer in Jamaica occur between the ages of 25 to 69. But we know that not all people get screened. You may not get screened because of the cost of screening or just the availability of appointments for screening. And to even make the case, just yesterday, our Otrius branch manager, Ramona Brown, called me about a particular incident or fact that herself and Sonia Stable from marketing discovered in Otrius. And they discovered that they had ladies at the Jamaica Cancer Society on a list from last year, December, waiting to do their mammogram. And that's a whole long time to wait if your mammogram is due. And so by us moving into this modality, we're actually able to alleviate the problem, because the Cancer Society can only screen 6,000 women a year. And so anybody that can add to the availability of appointments, increase that number. Yes, there are other private providers, but they just are not enough. So what we did, as we had promised, I'm working with the clicker, so Affinity will click for me, is that we procured the 2 mammography units. So that's something that we said we're going to do, and it has been done. You can clap us for that. And the units, the one in Otrius is actually installed as at the 24th of July. That's a picture of what the unit looks like. And from patients who have used it so far here, the experience is quite pleasant. And there's something that we do called toposynthesis, that we're able to see through the layers of the breast and a little bit more than just a routine. And they were very comfortable and happy with the service. And we will start offering the service at our Morlines Road location on August 14th. That machine is actually being implemented as we speak. And so our aim is by the end of this financial year, 2024, which will be in February, will be at the capacity that we can do the same 6,000 screens per year as a cancer society. So we're starting with 250 screens per month across the locations, and then moving up to between 450 and 500 by the end of Q4. So we're really going to be able to make a difference in the screening for breast cancer in Jamaica. And why we think that we're going to do a good job with that is because we maintain the same quality of reporting, and the same accessibility to our radiologists and affordable pricing. And what this also does, it actually allows us to build out the full suite of offering as it relates to breast cancer screening, because we already do breast ultrasounds through the company that we own 30% of, WMRI. They do breast MRIs, and we do breast biopsies. So if somebody comes and God forbid, but it does happen, you find out that there is something detected, then we can do the ultrasound and MRI if needs be, and the biopsy to help in the treatment that your primary physician will then give you. So we think that's making a difference, not only to the bottom line for your shareholders, but also for the population of women in Jamaica. And I say women like men don't get breast cancer too, but it's primarily women that screen. But I'm encouraging all the men to screen as well. I don't know when they must screen. One of the doctors can tell us that, but I know they need to screen as well. What else? Oh, you might be wondering why this picture keeps coming up. So this is the Otrius branch, and because we've invested so much in it, which I always should show you, no, it's not the whole plaza. But if you if you look at the right of the building, yes, right on your screen, if you're looking at it, the last three shops, 8, 9, and 10, that's where we're located on the ground floor. And you can see that's a big building. We have ample parking, because parking is always a concern for persons. It has security, well lit. We have a lot of services that will allow us to continue offering care to our patients 24/7 when we eventually get there. So what is left to come for Uchi now is on to MRI, because that's the other thing we said we are going to get when we put in the prospectus and took your money, right? We said we're going to look for expanding our modalities through MRI, and that's the next thing that will happen for the Otrius location. Generally for the company, the other big ticket item that we're told in the prospectus is that we're going to move our operations at 3A Winchester Road. And I'm happy to say and to share again that we actually identified the location, and the transaction should close in the third quarter of this year. So that would be now May, June, July, August, so September onwards, meaning that the sale agreement has already been signed. I've been holding the location close to my chest until we actually finish the transaction. But I promise you that we have considered our ease of access for not only our patients who drive, but also the patients that take public transport. So it's in a very accessible location and easy also for our hospitals to send their patients to. We are going to have to build at that location. And so what we are estimating, we had a presentation just this week to a subcommittee of our board to then go to the wider board in September, because we're anticipating that building will start in the fourth quarter of this year and will be finished in the fourth quarter of financial year 2025. We said we're going to increase our footprint through acquisitions. We have looked at one opportunity thus far, and we don't think that opportunity was a fit for us. And so we passed on that one, but we continue to entertain others, because we do believe that the industry can do with some amount of consolidation. And so we'll assess and ensure that we're prudent and make the best decision for use of your money. We are focused on continuing to attract competent talent. And I should say here, we're deliberate about succession planning as it relates to our radiologists, and we're also deliberate about succession planning as it relates to our radiographers. And through our chief radiographer, Nicola Beckham Morgan, she is very involved with the students, and because we do the internship program, we're really able to pick the best of the best after the internship program and ensure that we have persons who are excited about this profession and serving our patients with care and excellence. We are also going to focus very deliberately now on managing our core efficiency and growing our revenue. So remember, I said the risk would be machine downtime. We're putting in mitigating strategies by ensuring that we have more than one partner to actually help us with the machines if a machine does go down. We are ensuring that in growing our case count, it's based on the number of appointments you can take per day, which will be limited if you don't turn over your rooms fast enough. We're not rushing a patient, but if a patient comes in and then we have a lull in between taking the next patient, then we'll do less scans. So we're focused on our efficiency in turning over our room. And then, of course, we're going to continue to manage with a sharp eye our receivables. And so I'm going to end as I began. So I began with a testimonial from one of our doctors, and I'm going to end with a testimonial from one of our patients. Help me, team. Thank you. because remember, people are at the core of all we do. So all the numbers really only manifest if people keep choosing our services and if doctors keep having the confidence to refer, and if people who come and are happy with the service they get, then they tell others. And one thing I can say is that without a shadow of a doubt, when you hear in the industry, they will say the quality of the reports that you receive from Apex Radiology are the standard in the industry, and I'm very proud of that. So this patient says in closing, I have been a patient at Apex Radiology for over 10 years. She's a repeat person, coming for different things because she does have the need. The staff are excellent in all their customer service. They ensure to remind you of your upcoming appointments, inform you of any changes or delays, and inform you carefully of what to do or not to do before a test. I've always recommended Apex Radiology to my family, friends, and coworkers, and I always will. The service and the staff are way beyond excellent. So I thank you in closing, shareholders, for your partnership. I think we're committed as a team on the ground, as management and as directors, to stay true to who we are. We're not going to change just because we're now a listed entity. Quality of care, the quality of our reports, the timeliness of our reports, the accessibility of our doctors to referring doctors is never going to change. We are also using this opportunity in saying thank you to you, our shareholders, for the confidence you placed. And it was a request made on Monday in the earnings call, actually. The request was that as shareholders, what else can we get besides our return? And we are happy to share today that we're going to, effective today, if you need to go, offer all our shareholders a discount of 10% on any service that you need to get from Apex Radiology. So that is true partnership, because we value the fact that you believe in us and that you are helping us to grow. Thank you. Jeez, I can't get a clap.
She shouldn't have to ask for the clap. Yes, clap again. Thank you, Keisha. We can always depend on you for your clear, informative, and engaging presentations. We are going to go straight into our question and answer segment, which will be moderated by Director Townsend. Please observe the protocols previously outlined by Director DaCosta as we try to get through as many questions as we can in the time allotted. We'll be making every effort to address questions submitted prior to the meeting, as well as online today, along with those from persons in the room. For those in the room, please identify yourself before asking questions. Carl?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, fellow shareholders. How are you doing this morning? Well, everybody looks so glum. Come on, man. It's not that bad. All right. So, as the chair mentioned, I'm going to moderate the Q&A session. And because this is a hybrid AGM, we do have questions from persons online. And just let you know, we actually have 42 persons. Yeah, that's what happens when you're short. My thing can work for you, okay? Just saying. Right, so we actually have 43 persons online. And of course, we have all our shareholders here physically. So what I'm going to do, just to try and be fair, I'm going to take one question online, and then I'll take one question from persons who are here in person. So I think what you need to do for the persons who are in the audience, if you just raise your hand, and then Kerry will direct you to the mic. When it's your turn, you'll identify yourself, you'll ask a question. I will, of course, tell you the names of the persons who are online, and we'll try as best as possible to answer those questions. So the first question online, and I'm going to direct this one to our CEO. It's from Natasha, and I can't pronounce her last name, so it's Geohagen. If I get it Wrong, please don't sue me, okay? But a question from Natasha is, how many times per year do you plan to pay dividends? She's all about the money, okay?
Well, I guess cash flow is important to her. It's important to me too. So we had indicated in our prospectus that, yes, David, I see you, that we would do at minimum a semi-annual payout. And we had said up to 55% of our dividends, of our profits, so we would pay out in dividends up to. Everybody here up to, right? Because at the same time, we don't want to, as Jamaican people say, cut off our nose to spite our face. So if there are things that we need to do to secure future revenue, we will hold back a portion to do that. But our shareholders, or quite a few of our shareholders, are members of our team. And so they're also focused on getting return. So I think she's in good company in terms of what we intend to do. We're going to be prudent, but up to the 55% is possible.
Thank you very much, Keisha. Do we have anyone in the audience who wants to ask a question? All right, I don't see anyone. So next question, and this is from Javon Russell online. And Javon asks, well, first he's making a statement. Firstly, I must commend IPCL on its listing and performance so far. With advancement in technology to include AI, how do you plan to implement this in your day-to-day business activities? And Madam CEO, I think that one is for you again.
Well, I think that one sounds like it's for the radiologists who report, you know. So I would say that it is something that came up at the end of our last strategic session. And I think I don't want to just say something willy-nilly, but we are committed to look at how AI is impacting our industry. And we are going to participate in a conference this year, RSNA. Can somebody remind me, the RSNA, Radiological Society of North America. They do a big conference in November annually, and we're going to participate. I think our radiologists go because they look at new practices. They have a side where you look at actually machines and technology and what it's doing, and then the business side. So we're going to participate and get some insight there and continue to do some other work and guidance and see. So I would say that's a question that next year we'll be more equipped to answer.
Thank you very much, Keisha. All right, no one in the physical audience. Oh, please, can you proceed to the mic, identify yourself, and ask your question? Thank you.
I didn't make her take the shortcut.
Morning. Nicola Borrelli, shareholder. First, I'd like to commend you on I don't look at gross profit, I look at net profit after tax. And there's been a very significant increase. Congrats. However, let me start out with a small but I think important concern. In opening remarks of Ms. DaCosta, she said, we're limited to 2 questions, and then our questions are to be emailed after. I take objection to this. First, shareholders learn from each other the questions asked. There are a number of shareholders who are usually reticent in asking questions, and they're quite happy when others ask the questions for them. Not everyone is as good in accounting or reading through these materials. So therefore, limiting us to 2 questions is unacceptable. What happens in a number of other shareholder meetings, and I know this is your first, no probs, is that you're limited to 2 questions initially, and then you're allowed to come back. But just to say 2 questions and email, can't work. So I do trust, as you're a progressive company, I am seeing that this will change on our behalf.
Thank you for your feedback.
You mentioned on page 52, and I think it's other places. Where are we? You mentioned that there was no impairment provision was recorded for year-end 23 as we procured a written commitment from the Ministry of Health for payment of the outstanding receivable due from them in a specific time. You talked about the receivables being timing. However, I'm asking, does it still continue? Because I believe somewhere else, if I look on page 65, there's a
Sorry.
significant increase in receivables.
So is a question, the specific question is whether or not,
The ministry is paying on time, so to speak.
yes.
That's first. And
Yes.
then there's a significant increase in receivables. So I don't know if it is kind of happening or if something else is going on.
Okay. So I think that one I can help you with, Keisha, if you don't mind. So the answer to the first question, is the ministry paying? Yes, they are.
On time?
They are paying as they have promised.
Okay.
Right? The timing is
Reasonable.
as you know, with government.
As promised
entities.
is part of the timing too.
Yes. So as promised, they are paying. The significant increase in receivables, a part of that would also be related to the ministry. And again, it's volume based, right? So the more we do, it means that we are doing more for the ministry and their entities. And so they would have a receivable for us. But the important thing from your standpoint as a shareholder, that we do have a written commitment from them to pay, and they've been honoring that commitment.
Good. Thank you.
So we continue to feel very comfortable as management and as a board that the government will continue to pay, and so we'll collect those receivables, and therefore we will not need to take impairment provisions on them. And our auditor is sitting right there. And of course, we have to satisfy our auditors that we have written documentation so that we don't take that impairment provision.
Okay, good to know. And due to the limitation, if I have any other questions, I will return.
And we look forward to seeing you. All right, thank you very much for that. Let's take another question from the online shareholders. And this one I can answer as well. So this is from Elaine Wilson. Does IPCL have a liability insurance policy? And I can confirm that we do have several insurance policies for both liability, fire and allied perils, medical malpractice, and so on. So we are fully insured for all the risks that we contemplate in our business. All right, I'll take another online question. Oh, I have to click this button to tell Elaine I've answered a question. Oh, and another question from Elaine. So Elaine gets 2 questions. And this one is for you, Madam CEO. What is the projected revenue growth from the Ocherius branch year ending?
I'm so glad the Ocherius branch manager is here to hear that question. But it's projected for the year to come?
Yeah, I think that's what she's asking.
Right,
ending.
okay. For the year ending, yeah, okay. So the Ocherius branch traditionally has grown every year over 30-40%. This year, so far, the growth is actually flat. However, with MRI going in now and the team now focus on settling down after moving and, all the things coming with fine-tuning moving, that there's nothing less than that 40% expected from them. So they know we've spoken. They've promised to deliver. They're very focused along with the marketing team on going on the road and reminding our referring physicians what we have to offer. So I'm going to ensure that when we come next year, we actually have a little look to our shareholders of how each of our locations kind of performing year over year.
Thank you, Keisha. All right, and we have someone from our physical audience.
Good morning, everybody. Catherine Powell, shareholder. All right, my question, first of all, I'd like to commend the team as well, not just the directors and the management team, but all the staff of Image Plus Consultants. All right, so my question is, currently you have offices in Kingston and St. Andrew and St. Anne. Is there any plan to take it to any other parish? Some of us outside of this parish would like to benefit from the professionality of your team.
Madam CEO.
So we took a clinical approach to looking at where we want to expand, and we looked at the actual population data We know we're doing a census now as a country, right? But the last census, though old, gave us some insight into where the population was aging and where those persons lived. And we recognize that there are opportunities in Mandeville and there are opportunities in Montego Bay. I don't want to overcommit on our collective behalf because we're doing a lot of investment in the new location to come in Kingston. And why we thought it prudent to do that even before expanding is because this location is going to allow us to offer more modalities and also allow us to offer multiple redundancy of modalities. So rather than, for example, 2 ultrasound rooms, we could do 3. Rather than 1 CT room, we could do 2. We're going to do interventional, have an interventional suite, which is very important in where the industry is going. And so that's our focus for the next year or 2. It does not mean that if we don't see a good opportunity to either acquire something that's a going concern in those 2 parishes, or to maybe start smaller with 1 or 2 modalities, that we will not try to take advantage of it. But in such a case, we would have to come back to our shareholders or the market for capital, because we wouldn't be able to, with what we have now, do everything. But we're going to be prudent around the growth, because we really do know that the new location in Kingston is going to make a big difference for healthcare in Jamaica.
Thank you, Keisha. All right. Another question from online. And this question comes from Jamaica Money Market Brokers Limited, who is a shareholder.
And in the top 10 too.
Yes.
The pension funds.
Will the recent real estate acquisition be exclusively for the use of IPCL, or are there plans to develop the property for other commercial tenants?
Okay, so the property, based on our preliminary discussion, we can actually do a building of over 40,000 square feet. So we would not need all that space for ourselves, but the whole details around how we're going to develop and build out, I think if our shareholders will allow us until the 3rd quarter, when we have done a little bit more work, we can say, but for sure, the space that we're going to build out is going to be more than we can use.
Thanks. And another one from JMB. Is mobile imaging services in the cards as a growth option? Do you think mobile MRI or mobile X-ray services could be feasible for the business and enhance the penetration of the company?
We really haven't given that any thought so far, but maybe that's how we could satisfy shareholder Catherine's desire if we did a mobile. What you'll know is that the technology is advancing rapidly in terms of making the machines smaller and more portable. And we actually did explore a mobile X-ray unit when we were thinking of going to an offsite. And the cost is no longer as prohibitive. So we haven't thought about it, but maybe that's a way that we could approach build out if we so desire.
Thank you. And a question from physical audience.
Just one, it's for clarification. On page 64, statements of changes in equity. I know before the IPO, there was a nice dividend payout, closing off things for you guys. But that's 30 million. And then I see transaction costs of 31 million. I'm not sure if that's related to that transaction or IPO or a mix of things.
The IPO. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you. Keisha.
That's what you want. If it's related to the IPO, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. One from our online, Shellyan Grosskopf. And again, if I got that surname incorrect, please forgive me. Great initiative. We discount on services. What will we use to identify ourselves as shareholders in office to receive same discounts?
Yeah, all right. So what we're going to do, and I see Althea Jones here from operations, is that we will ensure on some kind of shared drive, we share the JCSD numbers. I think we'll have to be a JCSD or a something as a unique identifier. So the JCSD is probably going to be the easiest, because we do get the share register at the end of a month from the registrar, so we can use that. My mentor, is there something you think we could do other than that, the JCSD? Yeah. Yes, I think that's what we will do.
All right.
So
Thank
I
you.
know that's, so to be honest, shareholders, I don't even know my JCSD number. So it's a number we're going to have to go and go and get. But I guess at worst case, if you come, because we have the share register, it has more than your number and you have your name and your address, we can try and cross-reference and ensure it's you.
Plus, all our shareholders are honorable people, so you're not going to do anything untoward. Correct?
Yeah.
All right.
And we're also, I should say, Director Townsend, we are also empathetic people, because we do have patients that come, or people who have been patients that paid in the past, that they come and they have an issue, and we'll work out something with you, because we are in the business of healthcare. That's our primary business.
Thank you. I have a question from our physical audience. Morning. Can you please identify yourself? Thank you.
Teresa Edwards, shareholder.
Thank you, Teresa.
Just a small question. In your finance income and your finance costs, I see where your finance interest costs are twice the income, but at the same time you have substantial investments, for instance, over 400 million in JMMB. So I was just wondering if there could be any juggling to sort of reduce your interest costs, considering that you have such liquid assets.
So Keisha, I think that that question concerns the fact that we have significant interest costs, but we have a lot of investments at JMMB. And the question from Teresa is there a way to do something so we can either increase our interest income or reduce our interest costs so that more money can flow to the bottom line so that you can get more dividends? Right, Teresa? Yes.
Well, some of that money that we had at JMB would have been the IPO money that we initially, and that money would have been now deployed into some of the things that we were doing, if I am getting the question correct.
Yes. Some of those monies would have been used towards the deposit on the real estate and
correct,
acquiring equipment, etc.
So that was short term, just holding the money, the best return that we could get in the short term, and we were very deliberate to check the market for the best rates in the short term, and then it has now been deployed. So we wish we had it still to earn more interest income, because that was good in the first quarter, but it's deployed to earn even greater revenue for the company in the future.
Thank you. All right, let's take a question from online. There's one question from online, and then I'm going to come to you, sir. This is from Maxine Thompson. Congrats to the IPCL team so far as a new listed company and the performance so far. Can the 10% discount be considered for other services?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Yes.
So it's 10% for our services.
Right. So it's 10% for all services that we offer.
Yes.
Right. Correct. Okay. Great. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Morning.
Good morning.
My name is Marty Fennell. I'm just trying to get clarification and an understanding of the method of paying dividends. Are you going to pay strictly from dividends from the profits for the particular year, or can it be paid from accumulated profits over the year?
Did you hear that question, Keisha? Are you going to pay profits strictly from profits earned during the year, or are you going to pay also from accumulated retained earnings?
I don't know if I could answer that question now, shareholder Fennell, in that I think that would be something that management would take a recommendation to our audit committee and then to the wider board, depending on the circumstance at hand. So I don't know if I can give you an answer now.
Okay.
But I think, Keisha, if you were to think short term, maybe if we break it in two.
Okay.
So in the short term, I would say that we would pay from current year earnings. Right. But on a longer term basis, when the business stabilizes, etc., then maybe you could look to see whether or not there's an opportunity to do something else. But in the short term, I think we could be fairly confident that we're going to pay from current year earnings.
See, I'm getting guidance from my audit committee member already.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. All right, I think we have one more online. Let me just get there. This is from Javon Russell. Are there plans to raise additional funds in the future in the form of a bond listing or other means?
Well, I think Director Townsend, that will come in the third quarter. We'll say what we're doing with the real estate.
Right.
Because we wouldn't have enough capital now to do the entire build out. So how we choose to approach the build out will determine if we go back to the market or if we do some kind of partnership. So
Right. All right. Thank you. Do we have any other questions from our physical audience? I don't see any additional questions online. Oh, okay. There are two persons coming. Or is it one? Oh, one person.
Pleasant good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Lancel Bloomfield.
Lansford?
Lanzel
Lanzel. Okay. Thank you.
Bloomfield. First of all, I would like to commend the board of this company. It's very hard looking through this report to really find a question.
But I'm sure you're going to find
As I have taken a brief glance through the financial report, you have put together a well-written report, and I want to commend you on it. I also want to commend the board for its composition. As I look this morning, I see more females, and I see a few males, and I'm very happy about that. My question is, page 86, note 15. There is a significant increase in advertising and promotion costs from 9.2 million in 2022 to 25.8 million in 2023. Although you're doing quite well, I really did not expect such a huge increase in your advertising and promotion budget. What is being considered to reduce this level of expenditure?
Thank you, Lanza.
boy, me and the technology not working this morning, not true. Thank you for your question, shareholder. So that was a situation that we don't expect to recur. What we had to do last year in preparation for going public is that people knew the name Apex Radiology, but people didn't know the name that we was our official company registered name, Image Plus. So we spent some time linking the brand Image Plus Consultants Limited to Apex Radiology, and we built out a brand story, and then we were doing advertising for at least 6 months before the notice came out that we were going to list, and then getting everything in terms of our all the material we need for the future to promote the company, getting those things in place. So that is a one-time cost that we won't be spending that amount going into the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so my name is Renee McDonald from Learn Grow Invest, and I have two questions on behalf of two other persons.
Sure.
One from Philip Burgess, and his question is, will you offer stereotactic breast biopsies with your new mammo machines? This was asked on the earnings call on Monday. And yes, Mrs. Anderson would have indicated that the radiologist would need to answer that one.
Yes, it's Dr. Lewis.
Right.
So, Dr. Lewis, first and foremost, maybe just for general education, you could articulate what is a stereotactic.
Right. So the stereotactic biopsy, in
Yes.
a nutshell, is essentially a way of imaging and taking samples of a lesion to allow for diagnosis by the pathologist. What a stereotactic machine is an additional machine that you attach to the mammography unit, which allows you to basically fine-tune exactly where in the lesion and how many passes of the lesion that you'll want to biopsy. So it increases your accuracy, it increases your confidence level, and increases the diagnosis. So as we move from the diagnostic part of mammography to the more pathology-driven biopsy, that is a thought that we would add that to the machine in the future to increase and improve our services.
Thank you, Dr. Lewis.
Thank you. And the second question is from Marlene Taylor. And she's asking, is the discount on cash paying payments, or can you offer discounts on co-payments?
On all payments.
Thank
That's
you
a
very
short answer. Yes, discount to be offered across the board on all payments.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's it. Any other question? I don't see any other question online. Let me just double check once more. Oh, a new one came in. And this might be the last one that we're going to take. And this is from Stephen Cole. Says, good morning. Will you, the same question, the stereotactic breast biopsy, which has been fully answered by Dr. Lewis. All right. So thank you, shareholders. It was very engaging Q&A session. And of course, as usual, if you have questions in the future, you can always email them to us at our email address and engage with us. Thank you again very much. I'm going to hand back over to the chair.
So a big thank you to all who participated, because your comments and opinions are appreciated and very important to us. And thank you, Carl, for doing such a great job. Now, shareholders, we will now raise and vote on the 6 ordinary resolutions outlined in the notice of the meeting on page 1 and 2 of the annual report. I will now read each resolution and ask a member who is physically present to move that each resolution be put to the meeting, and another member who is either physically or virtually present to second the motion. The tally of votes will be displayed on the screens. And just to note that Resolution 3 will be read by Director Da Costa. Resolution 1. To receive the reports of the directors and auditors and the audited accounts for the 12 months ended February 28, 2023. That the audited accounts and the reports of directors and the auditors for the year ended February 28, 2023, circulated with the notice convening the meeting to be and are hereby adopted. May I have a shareholder to move the motion? Thank you, Mr. Rose. And someone to second, please. Thank you, Mrs. Powell. Shareholders, you now have 1 minute to vote. Those in the room will vote by raising your hand. Those in favor? Thank you. Those against? Thank you. Shareholders online, click Vote Now at the bottom of your screen. Select the For or Against option. Select Submit Vote at the bottom of the pop-up. We'll await the results. The results are in. I declare the resolution carried. Resolution 2, to ratify interim dividend payments and declare them final. That the interim dividends of $29.21 per share paid on November 30, 2022, and 6 cents per share paid on June 21, 2023, be and are hereby ratified and declared as final, and that no further dividend be paid in respect of the year under review. I'm going to ask the shareholders who are moving and seconding to state your name for the record. Okay, thank you, Mr. Rose. A second. Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Shareholders, you now have 1 minute to vote. Same protocols apply. Those in favor? Those against? Thank you. We will await the results. Okay, the results are in. I declare the resolution carried. Now, Carolyn is going to take over for resolution 3.
Resolution 3, to reappoint directors retiring by rotation pursuant to Article 105. The directors retiring from office by rotation pursuant to Article 105 of the company's Articles of Incorporation are directors Dr. Caroline McDonough, Dr. Lilith A. Bridgewater, and Dr. Gordon Bradshaw, who, being eligible, offer themselves for re-election. Resolution 3A, that Dr. Caroline McDonough, who retires by rotation, is eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company. I now ask a shareholder to move that resolution. Can you tell me your name? Karen? Karen Gauntlett. And a shareholder to second that motion? Thank you. We will now move all those in favor. Those against? Okay, we await the results of resolution 3A. We are tallying the online scores as well, online votes. That resolution is carried by a vote of 51 shareholders. Resolution 3B, that Dr. Lilith A. Bridgewater, who retires by rotation, is eligible for re-election, B, and is hereby re-elected a director of the company. I now ask a shareholder to move that resolution. Catherine Powell. And a shareholder to second. Leslie Edwards. All in favor? Any votes against? Okay. Leslie. The resolution is carried with 49 votes for. Now resolution 3C, that Dr. Gordon Bradshaw, who retires by rotation and is eligible for re-election, B, and is hereby re-elected a director of the company. I now ask a shareholder to move that motion. Thank you, David. And a shareholder to second. Thank you, Mr. Bloomfield. All in favor? Thank you. Any votes against? And that resolution is carried with a vote in the positive, 52 persons. Thank you. Back over to the chair.
Thank you, Carolyn. We move on to Resolution 4, election of other retiring directors pursuant to Article 106. Director Carl Townsend was appointed by the Board of Directors as an addition to the board since the last annual general meeting and therefore retires at this annual general meeting in accordance with Article 106 of the company's Articles of Incorporation and being eligible offers himself for re-election. That Director Carl Townsend, who retires pursuant to Article 106 of the Articles of Incorporation of the company and is eligible for re-election, be and is hereby re-elected a director of the company. May I have a shareholder to move? Thank you. Could I have your name, sir? Thank you. And second it? Someone to second? Okay, thank you, Carolyn. Shareholders, you now have 1 minute to vote. Those in favor? And those against? And the results are in. I declare the resolution carried. Resolution number 5, to appoint auditors and authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the auditors. That HLB Mayor Russell, Chartered Accountants, having agreed to continue in office as auditors, be and are hereby reappointed auditors of the company to hold office until the next annual general meeting at a remuneration to be fixed by the directors of the company. A shareholder to move, please. Thank you, Mrs. Edwards. And to second? Mr. Fennell. Thank you, Mr. Fennell. Shareholders, you have 1 minute to vote. Those in favor? Those against? The results are in, and I declare the resolution carried. Final resolution, resolution number 6, to approve directors' remuneration. That the amount included in the audited accounts of the company for the year ended February 28, 2023, as remuneration for their services as directors be and is hereby approved. May I have someone to move? Thank you, Mr. Bloomfield, and to second. Thank you, Ms. Edwards. Shareholders, you have 1 minute to vote. Those in favor? Those against? I declare the resolution carried. So, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the business items on the agenda, and I wish to thank all the members of the board for their contributions to a very successful meeting. I think you can agree to that. It is our hope that the presentations and the details shared today have given all in attendance more insight into the company's affairs and have inspired confidence. On behalf of the entire board, I would like to recognize the tireless efforts of our team members who worked so diligently on every detail of the planning and execution of this event. Carolyn, Kerry, Sonia, Carwin, Charisse, we thank you. As we close, I would like to extend our gratitude to all our valued shareholders, our clients, and referring doctors for your invaluable support as we continue to strive for excellence in all we do. The board would also like to recognize the hard work of our radiologists and radiographers, our management, accounting, marketing, technical, customer service, and ancillary teams. Every single IPCL team member plays an immeasurable role in ensuring that the growth and success of our company. We appreciate you. A special thank you to George Henry and his Affinity team, Michael Kelly from M Squared, the Terra Hotel, and Catherine Powell from Amazing Events for supporting our meeting with such expertise. Looking forward to seeing everyone again next year. Stay healthy and stay safe.